Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And man, oh man, we're so excited to be with all of you tonight. In just a few moments, we're going to be joined by Evan Russell live here on our show. So we're very, very excited about that. Carl, I see you in the chat, bud. Yeah, I see you, man. I know you're ready. That's what I'm talking about. Carl correctly predicted who our guest would be this evening a couple weeks ago. So kudos to Carl predicting college football game winners and who the Vol Bros guests are. That's his specialty. A couple of news pieces of note before we bring Evan on. A couple things. Carl said, "Howdy, Evan and Rustin." He's pumped up, man. That's what I'm talking about. Hitting dingers. That's me, no likey. She said, "Woo, evening, Carl." And then she said the monkey emoji for Paco, the Rally Squirrel. So I used that photo for the thumbnail. Let's see. Sean said, "Go Big Orange." Welcome, Sean. Good to have you. So we're very excited to have Evan with us. He'll be joining us here in just a moment, actually. So as soon as I think he's joining us right now. So before I bring him on, we are very, very, very excited to welcome the man with the best name among us. Well, okay, that's a pretty good name there. Evan Russell. Welcome, Evan. It's good to have you.
Hey, I appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for joining us. We got a big fan of yours with us tonight. So Carl Junkins said, "Welcome, Evan. Excited you're here." He said you're one of his favorite baseball players of all time.
Whew, that's some hard company to be in and be able to beat. So I appreciate that. That's an honor. So thank y'all for again letting me to join and get to talk a little bit of ball sports.
Did you get a chance? Evan, did you get a chance to breathe, or did you literally just sit down and scramble?
I'm actually in Athens, Georgia, right now, so don't hold that against me.
Yep.
So was able to get back to the hotel and jump on. So
we appreciate it very, very much. Let's see. Oreo Puppy Dog. That's always a very common name we see on here. Oreo Puppy Dog. Welcome, buddy. He said, "Go Big Orange." Absolutely. Monica, welcome, Monica. Good to have you. She said, "Happy birthday," because today is Rustin's birthday.
Hey.
So
I chose to spend it with you all.
That is very, very exciting. Hitting dingers. That's another one of our very frequent listeners. She said, "Hey, Evan, welcome." Let's see. Carl said, "Hometown hero." That's Evan Russell, his hometown hero. That's what I'm talking about. That's cool. So I guess maybe y'all must be from the same hometown.
That is cool. Not many people are familiar with the Lexington, Tennessee area. So that's awesome.
Carl said, "Happy birthday to Rustin as well."
Thank you.
Very, very exciting. We got, man, this is just a special show. We got Rustin's birthday and Evan Russell joining us. How about that?
You need to read Mr. Jones's comment. You skipped it, but they got to see it.
Mr. Jones said, "That does not look like Joe Milton."
Are you sure? Are you sure? Take another look. 6'6".
If you ever watched our show, you would know that. If you ever watched our show, you would know that Mr. Jones's answer to every question is Joe Milton. So it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter who we said was going to be on here. He'd be like, "Where's Joe Milton?"
Mino Aggie said, "Happy birthday, Russ." And Oreo Puppy Dog said, "Happy birthday, Rustin." So very cool. Very cool.
She's not Evan, Mino Likey right now. She's hitting dingers.
That's right.
You butchered her name.
Yep, that's my fault. That's my bad. All right, Evan, real quick, guess how much money my hat was?
That is $24.99 plus tax.
That's a pretty good guess. $2.97 at Academy Sports. It was on clearance. So Academy Sports, not a sponsor, but you could be. Just saying. I'm just saying. But we're excited to answer. Let Evan ask, we're going to ask. Evan's going to answer the questions. The name's throwing me off. So Evan, I got a question for you that I'm sure that every person who's watching this right now is automatically thinking the same exact thing. What is it really like playing for Tony Vitello?
He is a tough cookie for people that do not know the real him. So I can definitely see how, especially being a sports fan of another team, not letting or not appreciating what he has brought to college baseball with his team and with his coaching. So I completely understand people's opinions of him, but I will say that this is the most genuine dude and the most genuine friend, along with coach, that I've ever had the privilege of knowing. So I still continue to have a great relationship with him today. He is a guy that got the opportunity of coming into University of Tennessee and not being a person that had earned his stripes, I guess, in college baseball. But he took the opportunity due to being a great recruiter, and he took the opportunity and ran with it. So you can almost say that he was a guy that was a little doubted, being in his position, coming in and being in a program that wasn't respected at the time. And he took that approach and mentality, and it fed throughout his entire team. And I truly think that without that approach, Tennessee wouldn't be where it is today. It wouldn't be one of the best programs in the country. And every person that I play for has the same opinion as I do, or every person that played for him has the same opinion that I do. They love and respect him, and they think that he is the sole reason for the success due to the program. So
that's awesome.
I'm curious. So you get to Knoxville, you're playing outfield, play outfield pretty much your entire career. Then all of a sudden we get to the last season and they're like, hey, why don't you try catcher? So how'd that conversation go? How'd that come about? What, like, was it literally just they pulled you in the off season? They were like, hey, we got some depth issues. We're making a switch. You're going to have to crash course, learn this as fast as you can. Like, how'd that go?
So what's crazy is I approached them.
Okay.
So I knew that after my senior year, I'd hit well in conference, but I did not hit well overall from an average standpoint. And I wanted to have an opportunity for pro ball. So I approached them and I said, okay, so based on how the trajectory of my career is going as an outfielder, it has no potential there. So I need to make a switch, and I feel like I can do this. And if I don't have an opportunity here, I even told him that I was willing to transfer to somewhere else in order to be able to continue playing baseball, because that was the sole goal. So after having a conversation with him, he told me that it was a long shot, but of course he would let me at least give it a shot. And due to me being a senior at the time, going into a grad school, I was able to kind of play with my schedule of classes. So
sure.
Was doing a lot of online, which freed up my time to be able to spend everything at the field. So it allowed me to basically spend 5-6 hours a day off of machines, just trying to figure out how to develop into that catcher position. And having the respect from guys and being an older guy definitely helped, and having the confidence of being able to attack the position and go into it and learn it very quickly. I think that it was kind of the perfect storm. So it was a weird conversation, but in hindsight, looking back, it was something that I don't think our team would have had success if I didn't make that change. So it was actually really cool.
Absolutely. So the coaching staff didn't have any idea that you were going to come and ask?
No. So I pitched to Frank Anderson the idea, and he had messed with me saying that I should at least try it in a summer ball game or something. Well, we had summer ball games at the University of Tennessee. And so I went to a coach and I was like, hey, if you ever need a catcher, send me a text. And sure enough, like the next week, he sent me a text. And I'm pretty sure I had like 2 or 3 pass balls. I looked super uncomfortable at the time. And I was catching a guy that probably threw 10, 15 mile an hour slower than what our average velo was for our staff. So it was a a long road. It was not very smooth, but ended up having a lot of good coaching along the way, and a lot of practice to where I was able to take care of a pretty elite staff.
Yep.
Because your staff included, that was Drew Beam and Chase Burns freshman year, right?
That's right.
And
that was the first year of Chase Dollander.
Yep. That's pretty stout pitching staff. So there's a lot of movement on some of those pitches coming at you.
A lot of people, they'll ask me how catching Ben Joyce was, and it was elite.
Oh yeah.
There were times where it was a little hairy back there, especially in big time situations with runners in scoring position. But the guy that kept me up at night was Chase Burns. He has the stuff of 10-year big leaguers. He's going to have a long career, whether you appreciate his time at Tennessee or have a grudge with him for leaving. He's going to be a talented guy in the big leagues, and he showed that his freshman year. So he was the guy that really had me worried whenever he was coming into the game.
So I caught a guy in high school that threw 94, 95 consistently, ended up playing for the Rangers. For the people who just heard what you just said, I understood what you meant by he's the one who kept you up at night. But for people who have never caught someone who throws mid to high 90s, why is that? Why would he keep you up at night? And what's the hardest part of catching guys like Ben Joyce, like Chase Burns, who are touching triple digits?
Yeah, because he wasn't nearly the only one that was throwing mid to high 90s. There were guys all in that bullpen that were doing it. So the difference in him, it was the spin rate. So there was something that was the way that he was able to manipulate the spin at a force that was coming out of his hand. It just felt like it was getting on me much quicker, even whenever a guy was throwing 5 mile an hour harder than him, it felt like it was quicker coming out of Chase Burns' hand. And the negative part about being a guy that throws a spin rate, if he doesn't get truly behind the fastball and he accidentally cuts it, not only is it still 94, 95, but now it's got about 6 inches of horizontal break to it. And this guy was he was focused on throwing the spin rate, and that was his bread and butter. But whenever there were days where it was not coming out of his fingers correctly, it was a tough outing of catching.
Yeah. When I caught that guy that threw mid 90s, I used to hate catching him at night because if for whatever reason the lighting wasn't good or it came out of his hand, like you just said, a little wrong, I had no idea where it was. Like I was just stabbing and hoping, and it's people don't understand, especially when you got a guy like Chase Burns who throws a slider like his. I used to tell people all the time the worst pain I ever felt in my life was dropping down and blocking 95 in the dirt. Like that's just awful.
Yeah, there were ice baths after every game, trying to recover for the next day because it was mentally a warfare, just knowing what he had, but physically, you're right. It was a battle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to your point of moving, to a new position your senior year, I think when you hit 3 home runs against LSU and then 3 home runs against Vandy, it's kind of hard to take you off the field. So, that's pretty good job security when you're hitting home runs at that rate.
That was definitely. That was a turning point, especially in the locker room of my career, of having the respect, almost having the confidence from other guys as well, of being able to do it off of elite pitchers. And it was almost a turning point of our entire season at that time. We were obviously talented, but getting over the hump of beating a Vanderbilt team that for the previous decade and probably multiple decades had been kind of the powerhouse in Tennessee. I think that was sort of the flip of confidence in the program as well. So,
and they had 2 of the top pitchers in the draft on their staff that year.
I will say I had some success off of the Saturday guy, but that Kumar rocker, man, he came to play that Friday night.
So, oh yeah, I remember that game. I was actually sitting right where I am right now, actually, when I watched it. You hit 3 home runs off Leiter that year, didn't you?
It was two off of him.
2, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. The way that my swing played, it matched up really well with Leiter. I was more of a flat guy, flat swing, more of a power arm, just played well, and my swing played well with spin rate. So off of him, it was great. But guys like Leiter, that was slider heavy, or not Leiter, Kumar, that was slider heavy. It didn't really. My matchup was difficult. If you got a guy like Jordan Beck, who is more of a kind of an uphill swing, those are the guys that do well against the sliders, the hard sliders that everything is breaking down. So
yeah,
I think it was the perfect storm whenever I did get to face Leiter.
So some of the comments that have come through, I want to catch up on these because we got a whole bunch of people saying some great stuff here. Carl said, Evan, you always were so clutch. If elite pitchers were shutting the team down, you get up and hurt feelings, crushing the ball, firing the team up and the fan base up. That's awesome.
I like you, Carl. I like
you. Zach, way nicer than the Vandy message boards.
Yeah. Welcome, Zach. He said, so important question. Who's Evan 1 and Evan 2? I fully recognize I'm Evan 2 in this episode tonight. Let's see.
You got the orange hat on right now is the thing.
That's true.
Prepared, so
for $2.97 in the clearance section at Academy Sports.
That's a steal. I kind of upset with the Academy by doing that to
us. Let's see. Hitting dingers. She said Tony V makes it look easy when he's coaching. She mentioned that when you were talking about Coach Vitello. Brent, welcome, Brent. Oh, this is a cool comment right here. He said, my daughter doesn't care for sports at all, but I took her to see y'all play and she fell in love with the villains. That is cool. That is cool. Rustin still has a villain shirt.
I do. I have a Mike Honcho villain shirt.
I mean, how cool was the Mike Honcho comment in game?
Absolutely.
During the game.
That's what made him better.
Was it Chris Burke that was interviewing him at the time? And whoever it was just died. Like he just lost it. And Tony never broke stride. Like he just kept going. It was incredible.
I think Ron Hart was on the call as well. And they just burst out laughing. Carl said, love Tony Vitello. Of all baseball is the most exciting, fun-loving brand of dominant baseball out there. Absolutely. Zach. All right, so Zach asked a question here. So I'm going to go ahead and I didn't tell you about this question, Evan. I thought of it later on. And I was like, oh, I'm going to ask that for sure. And Zach pretty much went ahead and asked it for me. He said, Tony V has had some great teams, but this is the deepest team. It's okay. So here's my question for you, Evan. There are a lot of people who say that 2022 team was, if not the best, one of the best teams in the history of college baseball that didn't get to Omaha. That team compared to this team in 2024, which team's better? That's a tough question.
That's a loaded question.
I think they're very different teams as well.
The lineup of this team, you can't argue it. I mean, it's top to bottom. I mean, where do you have a hiccup in? It's so hard for me to go against the 2022 team, knowing the staff that was on that team. I mean, you had, and I truly think you had 10. You're going to look back and you're going to have 10 to 12 big leaguers at some point from that team, just from the staff being on that. The staff alone is going to produce 5 or 6. If you look at the stats, we were not only putting up the offensive numbers, we were shutting teams down, and there was a fear factor, especially for that starting 3. So, I'm going to give the edge to the 2022 team. I don't know if I'd give the edge to the lineup just because of how elite this lineup is this year, but it is just hard for me to look at a team that was 57-9 and say that they weren't more talented, but we didn't win it. So this team has the chance to prove me wrong. That is for sure.
Well, I don't think anybody will ever forget Drew Gilbert's walk-off grand slam over the scoreboard. Nobody's ever going to forget that from that year.
Yeah. You got him. You got Jordan Beck, Trey Lipscomb. I think that there was a mental factor when teams came to play us, just from an age standpoint, a size standpoint. We had the hardest thrower in college baseball at the time. That played a part
in the history of college baseball.
Yeah, by him being on our team was enough to throw a team off.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because that brought up a really cool memory. That year, y'all started the season. Maybe it was Arizona, somewhere I can't remember, but y'all were somewhere for a few games at the beginning of the season.
It was Minute Maid Park.
Was it Minute Maid Park? Okay, all right. So there was a really cool photo that was taken during one of y'all's games, and it was one of the other colleges that was there, one of the other teams. And when Ben Joyce came into the game, the photo was of this whole other team who wasn't even playing at the time. They were all gathered down around the fence line on the first or third base side of the field, and they're all just watching Ben Joyce throw because, I mean, they were just so enamored by how hard he was throwing the ball. That was one of the coolest photos I'd seen really ever, but especially that season, because that encapsulated all of college baseball's opinion of him that year.
Yeah, and I think we dealt with that the entire season. I think that not only were teams a little outmatched by us, but they were a little more worried about the antics that we were doing opposed to winning the game. I think we did bring an edge mentally that some teams could not handle. The Notre Dame team that we played, I'll give you a funny story. The first batter of the Friday night game, Blade Tidwell was on the mound, and Blade Tidwell he's got elite stuff. You're talking about a guy that's up to 98, 99. He's in Double-A right now with the Mets, second round pick due to probably an arm injury at the time. But he's more than likely going to be a big leaguer at some point. And he's up on the mound, and their first batter is up, and he takes a slider. It's like a 2-1 slider that he takes for a ball that's just off the plate. And he looks to their dugout and he goes, "Not good," and then gets back in the box. And I was sitting there catching for a full season, and I'm like, man, I thought that one was pretty good. Yeah. And the next pitch, he ropes one in the left field for a single, and their dugout goes crazy. And I think that due to them being seniors and fifth-year guys, they knew that we were more talented, but they weren't going to back down, and they weren't going to be afraid by the antics that we were doing. So I think that, along with us being just a little bit emotional due to umpires having some calls and a couple guys getting thrown out, I think that had a big deal to do with it. But I think them not being worried and not giving into that mental edge was a big moment for them putting us out.
Carl, you are the man. Carl just gave a $50 super chat. He said, "Thanks, Evan. Happy birthday, Rustin." That is awesome. Evan, we will definitely share that with you for sure.
No. That is happy
awesome.
Birthday. Happy birthday.
Well, no, so actually I didn't talk to you about this ahead of time, but I'll go ahead and do it now. Why don't you go ahead and talk about loyalty, and then we'll talk about that super chat.
Yeah, so loyalty is a collective that I started just to get some guys that are playing and trying to get through school and pay for some tuition. It's an NIL deal to where I can take donations and go directly to the players. NIL was such a big moment for me, being a walk-on and not having a scholarship. It was a big moment for my family. And due to baseball only having 11.7 scholarships, it does make it difficult to be set up for school if the draft is not a thing for you. So it's something that I wanted to do. It's had a little bit of success of getting some guys, some money in their pocket to pay for expenses, and it is still open to today. So,
and you have, you have quite a few of the Tennessee baseball program in your collective, correct?
Yeah. So the way that it works is you can come directly to me and you can say, "Hey, I want it to go directly to one guy," And if you wanted to do something with him specifically, I could most certainly get that set up. Or if you wanted to have hands off, either way is fine. Or if you wanted to go to the entire team, that is always an option as well. So really flexible in what we can do, and having the compliance of Tennessee, making sure that everything is nothing going to be able to hurt their eligibility is also a huge factor in it as well.
So knowing that, for all of you who do, are gracious and give super chats, all super chats tonight are going to go to the Loyalty NIL Collective, so that we can help support Tennessee baseball players, help Evan take care of guys that, maybe don't get all of their education paid for, and need the opportunity. Every one of these guys has needs. All of them have different home situations. Every one of them come from different backgrounds. Some of them, were gracious or some of them were lucky enough to come from really good homes, but some of them aren't. And so, we want to help with that collective. So any super chats that come in tonight, we're going to donate to the Loyalty Collective to help Tennessee baseball. So all of you feel free to continue to support that as we go.
That's great.
Dang, Carl just gave another $50. Carl, you're the man. You are the man, buddy. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to catch up on the comments here.
Yeah, you got a couple of good questions in there.
Yeah, Steven, welcome, buddy. He said, man, I miss seeing Evan in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. He said, are we completely sure he doesn't have a COVID year left? Fingers crossed. And he said, hashtag comeback Evan.
So that's probably a good lead in. Evan, why don't you tell them what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I work with Raymond James. Fortunately, Tennessee did not only give me a great baseball career, it gave me a great education. And if anybody's ever graduated from Tennessee, they know that how great of a school it is. So working with Raymond James now, I'm doing some lessons here in Chattanooga to scratch that coaching itch with Nuga Sports. So just, trying to do my part and have a career with my finance, but also be able to stay in the game as well, just a tad.
The only 10 you see, you are awesome. She said, I don't have Carl money, but I care. I love it. That is amazing. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Everything matters. So that Nuga Sports Academy, that is one of our sponsors here on the Vol Bros, because one of the Vol Bros, i.e. Rustin, helped start Nuga Sports Academy. So that is super exciting. If you are in the Chattanooga area, then my goodness, you have a tremendous resource right here in Evan Russell and the whole staff at Nuga Sports Academy. So if you want some great hitting, pitching, catching, fielding lessons, NugaSportsAcademy.com. NOOGA, NugaSportsAcademy.com. Some of the other comments that have come through here. Let's see. Man, we got a bunch. This is awesome. Let's see here. Carl said you did a great job in left field as well. And Zach said, we're still the villains. Let's embrace it. Mr. Jones said, did you catch any oranges from Joe Milton or ever seen him throw a baseball?
I don't know if I even have that reaction time, even after that would have been that is something that I wish Tony V would have been able to get done. Just at least get him out for a bullpen.
Absolutely. Talk about selling tickets, man.
Cool.
Carl was talking about Ben Joyce's fastball, 105 miles an hour. And when you mentioned trying to catch Chase Burns and, it's moving all over the place, he said, see ball, catch ball. Easier said than done, right?
That's right.
Be honest, in a bullpen catching Ben Joyce, did you ever lose it and get plunked?
There was a time where, so we would be in the bullpen and you had to put a mannequin in the box. And there were multiple times where it would hit off the mannequin and it was going everywhere. At that point, it was mayday, cover yourself up, bail out. It got to the point where there'd be a high and tight inside pitch where it didn't touch the mannequin, but I wasn't even giving it an opportunity. I was, shutting out of the way. A human would be avoiding it at all costs, but he did some damage on some guys, on some of them figures in the box. That's for sure.
Carl asked, Evan, that series you hit 3 home runs against LSU, wasn't that Paul? I can never pronounce his last name correctly. Manieri. I can't pronounce. Wasn't that his last series with the Vols?
Yeah, that was his last year. He was obviously a phenomenal coach, but I think that he made a comment while we were playing them about how it was just too much of a hostile environment.
I remember that.
And then the super regionals, whenever they came, it was even worse. And they did not give him any grace after his last game. They booed him off the field. That was one thing where I kind of wish we would have been a little easy on him, but you got to respect the fan base. It is a dog-eat-dog world, especially in college baseball at Knoxville.
The only Tennessee said the Vol Bros are stepping it up. This is awesome. Hey, we appreciate that. It's good to know some folks. That's for sure. Absolutely. Papa J, welcome, Papa J. He said that was Dale Murphy for us old guys. He started as a catcher, but would throw the ball way into center field when someone tried to steal second. So they moved him into center field.
I had totally forgotten that. He did come up as a catcher, and he had the yips, and they had to move him to the outfield because he could never throw the ball to second base. I totally forgot about that.
Hey, the yips are a real thing. You know it. No, I mean, it is a sickness.
Mr. Jones said, Evan Almighty. I'm assuming he's talking about you and not me. He's never told me that. But
hey, you never know. He didn't specify.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. He said you can't spell Vitello without VOL. Nice. Flip of the rotor around a little bit, but it works. Oreo Puppy Dog said, what's the fastest you've ever caught? I'm assuming it's been Joyce.
Yeah, it's definitely been Joyce.
So
I had to put plenty of ice on the hand after pretty much everything on that staff at the time.
So when he hit, was it 104.5 or was it 105? I can't remember. It was one of the two.
They had it at 105.
So were you in the game when he hit that number?
Yeah, I was. I think that one was at Mississippi State. He had 104.5, I believe, at Knoxville. Yeah, I think
so. That means that you are the person who caught literally the fastest pitch in the history of baseball, not just college baseball.
Be honest, did you catch it or did it catch you?
You know, whenever he would come into the game, I was more about just holding my glove up and hoping to pray. If it was in this area right here, I was good. But anything other than that, picking it up off the backstop. He is the one guy that umpires, if he would come in, umpires would look at me and be with fear in their eyes and say, "Hey, you got me, right?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "I think." You know?
No, that's what you're supposed to say. Actually, I'm an outfielder. I just wanted to come back here for the season.
Yeah.
That's when you say, "You got me when I get in the box." Then, right? That's the
yeah. I would earn.
This is a mutual relationship. Carl, you are the man. Carl said he's using the neighbor's credit card now. Appreciate you, Carl. That's awesome, man.
For those who are just joining or maybe didn't hear us the first time, all super chats tonight are going to the Loyalty Collective for NIL for Tennessee baseball. Evan runs the Loyalty Collective, so any gifts tonight go directly to that.
That's great.
So the only 10 UC has asked another question that I wrote down this evening as I was thinking about tonight's show. This is a fantastic question. She said, Evan, what do you think about the matchup this weekend against Kentucky? So just so everybody knows, in case you didn't see the most updated rankings, right now, Kentucky and Tennessee are sitting at 1 and 2 in the SEC East. While I guess they're still in SEC East, but they're essentially 1 and 2 in the SEC. Real, I mean, you got Arkansas up there too, but right now, Tennessee's number 4 in the country. Kentucky's number 3 in the country. Kentucky does have the best record in the SEC right now. And so it's at Kentucky. It's a big ballpark. It's one of the biggest parks in the SEC. So, Evan, what do you think about this weekend, knowing all that stuff?
I don't like the matchup. If it was at Knoxville, I would love it. But I do not like the way that they play compared to us in a bigger ballpark. We have questions in our bullpen that are still very uncertain. That we're needing guys to step up. We never play well in Kentucky. The ball does not fly well. The atmosphere is not. It's almost trying to put you to sleep in a sense. So I don't necessarily like the matchup whatsoever. I think if we go in and we just win one, I think we're in good shape. I think if we do win two, it's a steal, but I'm not comfortable. I will say that.
I think that's a fair assessment. Absolutely. Some of the other comments that have come through. Carl said Vol's 22 team struck fear into teams. 24 team has a lot of power, but not the same pitching. And totally agree. Totally agree. The only 10 you see after Carl's most recent super chat, she said, "Dang, Carl, my birthday's coming up." I love it. I love it.
I do think that the missing piece of this team, I hate to say it, is Chase Burns. I think that if he does not transfer out, I mean, it's hard to not say that this team is probably better than the 24 team or the 2022 team. So I think that he changes the entire dynamic of the pitching staff. I don't know what you guys think, but
yeah,
I mean, it's almost like that one guy would have completely revamped the entire staff, and that's what they're missing.
It does feel like that edge is not there. That was there the last 2 years. I'll put it that way. I think that's a very fair assessment because he brings an edge to it. There's no doubt about it.
Man, I mean, even though because the rumor was that he was leaving middle of the season last year, so it was no surprise to anyone whenever he decided to enter the portal. But even then, even the teammates knew that he was leaving. He was probably leaving. They still loved playing behind him, So he had that dynamic. And it's a shame to know that we would have Billy Amick, a new and revamped Blake Burke, Christian Moore playing the way that he is. We have a lot of tools offensively, and it's almost like we need that one more in the staff to make it all come together, and he would have been it.
So Bran asked a really good question. He kind of alluded to this a minute ago, but he said, "What does the dialogue between a catcher and an umpire sound like? Does it ever get contentious? Any stories you can share?"
Okay, so me being an older guy, I took a different approach to the umpires. So I knew a lot of them already from playing for 4 years. So they were kind of helping me out whenever I got back there, and they were almost giving me some things, giving me some tips and pointers on what played well with them and how I could change my setup to be able to get better calls. So it was great from that standpoint. Another thing that I did was I had a little booklet. So the way that the SEC works is the umpiring crew, they make rotations. So let's say if I had a guy that was umpiring with us against Auburn, a couple weeks later, if we're playing a Florida, I might have hit the same guy. So knowing that before the season started, I had a little booklet, and I would get to talk to the umpires back there. And if I got to figure out the kid's name, or if I got to figure out where they went on vacation, man, I was documenting it. So the next time they came around, I was asking, how's Amy doing? I really appreciated everything that, all the tips you gave me, this and this, almost trying to force a relationship in a matter of small time. And I'm telling you, I feel like it gave me an advantage.
Heck yeah, it did.
Yeah, especially getting pitches for my pitchers. Even in the box, it gave me an advantage as well. And then I have Frank Anderson, who I love.
How many times did that keep Frank Anderson in the ballpark?
It almost helped whenever Frank would be able to hammer the umpire, and I would look at the umpire and be like, "Hey, man, I'll handle him in the dugout." Even though I was getting in the dugout, and I was telling Frank, like, that was a terrible call. We should just keep hammering it. It was like that good cop, bad cop going on. But we were building rapport with the umpire, so it was a perfect storm.
Dude, that is genius. That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I put everything I could into that last year, so it was awesome.
How many other catchers do you think really took the time to make notes like that, and when they saw them again, study those notes to be able to mention their family members' names? I guarantee you were probably the only one. I would say there was definitely no more than maybe one other person who did that. So that's genius, because that set you apart from everybody.
Right. And I think that I'm telling you, my school set up, my class, I was able to think about things and put everything into baseball when probably juniors at the time were focusing on class and, trying to make sure that, they were staying compliant and able to keep playing and all that. But I was strictly playing professional baseball in college is what I was doing. So I went all in. I loved every bit of it. And I was doing things that probably unethically when it comes to, trying to be fake in a sense. But I was being genuine with these umpires, but I was truly trying to help my guy on the mound.
Absolutely.
In any way that it took, so.
Absolutely. Oreo Puppy Dog, thank you so much, man. He said Evan puts the O in orange for this team. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. That is awesome. That is fantastic. Let's see some of the other that was I'm gonna clip that one section out and make it its own individual video. That was amazing. That was an awesome story. Let's see here. Man, we had a bunch of comments. This is awesome. The only thing you see said, I should have waited till I met Carl to marry. Let's see. Brant said that LSU series, he took his daughter to it. He said the legends of Lindsey Nelson were in full voice.
Talk about a perfect storm. The legends of Lindsey Nelson.
Green Wave said 105 miles an hour. Does the FAA need to approve clearance at this speed? The only 10 you see said Evan's going to be back weekly after all this generosity from Carl.
For those of you who just joined, because I just noticed a bunch of people just jumped in. All super chats tonight. Evan runs the Loyalty Collective, which is an NIL program for Tennessee baseball. All
Evan
super
Russell,
chats,
not me.
Yes, not Evan Pierce. Evan Russell. Evan runs the Loyalty Collective, and all super chats from tonight will be donated to that collective to help NIL for Tennessee baseball.
So, in regards to this weekend, Mr. Jones' prediction is that the Vols sweep, and the only 10 you see said, I refuse to be rational. I'm with Mr. Jones. We sweep. Hitting Dinger. So this is a great question, and I don't know the answer to it. She was asking what the weather's supposed to be like tomorrow.
I actually looked up the whole weekend because that was my biggest concern. And Evan can speak to this. There's times you go to Kentucky at this time of year and the weather is just miserable. It's actually going to be fairly decent. It's going to be like high 50s, low 60s during all three games, and not really raining, just kind of breezy. So it'll actually be kind of nice. But Evan, I'm sure you can speak to it. Kentucky at this time of year can be a miserable place.
I never had a weekend where I went there and I enjoyed my time. I went to A&M. I went to A&M, beautiful park. Arkansas was even fabulous, even though we didn't play well there. Auburn was a great experience, but Kentucky, man, I really don't know how anyone goes there and are happy with their experience, because it's a graveyard. There's no fans there. The weather is terrible, and usually their team is kind of rough when it comes to winning games and having a good season, but they've turned it around this year.
So Mr. Jones is king of the puns, and he said Chase burned us. But nice. Nice. Let's see. Carl said no one's comfortable about Kentucky this weekend. He said, yes, I miss Chase Burns. Still love him, but you got to do what's right for you. Let's see. He said when Chase was moved out of the starting position and came off the bench, he was lethal.
I'm sure I have the same opinion as y'all, but I mean, he's a big league bullpen guy. You've got a guy that he comes out of the pen throwing 100 with a 94-mile-an-hour slider with runners in scoring position. You need strikeouts. I mean, you can say what you want about him being pulled out of the starter, but I don't know if they go to Omaha without the coaching staff making that move. So,
good point.
I think that maybe someone might have had some bad people in his corner thinking that he wasn't going to get as much money out of the bullpen, because I'm going to be honest, he was a phenomenal teammate. It shocked me to know that he was wanting to transfer, but he did feel like it was best for him. But in reality, it was best for the team, for him to be out of the pen at the time. So
how much did you all interact with or deal with? You all are allowed to have, or not you anymore, but current players, they're allowed to have advisors. How much did you all interact with other players' advisors? Like, could you hear what your teammates were being told behind the scenes very often, or was it all just kind of something everybody avoided?
No, you usually kept it to yourself. There were obviously some guys that they would have conversations with their advisor, and it would be good conversations, and they would voice it to some of their teammates that they were close with. I think that NIL, now that it's a thing, it's starting to create some dynamics within a locker room that college baseball is not used to. And quite frankly, I don't know if it's great for the program, but that's just the world we live in now. So I think that a person that probably was the most valuable player at the time on the team was not getting paid as much as some of the other guys. And I think that had a huge hit on the ego, a hit on the almost the sense of worth.
Yeah.
And I think that no matter what we were trying to incentivize him with of staying, he had already made his decision. And it got to the point where other teams were able to offer him just as much money. And then, with a little burn going on, he made the decision that he felt like was best. So.
And you mentioned that you're not sure he was getting the best advice. People I knew around the program said it was something crazy. It was like he had 4 advisors in 5 years. If that's the case, he's just hopping from one person to the next, and who knows what he was being told.
It's advisors can be real tricky. You have some guys that you build rapport with that, they're meant to help, and they are a need that players they have to have. So it is something that people earn their money by doing what they do, but there can be some bias and some incentive from an advisor of trying to deepen their pockets as well. So it's always. You always got to be super careful with who you have in your corner. And I think that there can be times where bad advice can be given when in reality, it's not best for the kid.
And for the people who are watching or listening who aren't totally clear on what we're talking about, those advisors essentially, once they go pro, become their agent. Yep. And, before they go pro, they can be listed as an advisor, and they can come alongside and help with essentially be an agent without being called an agent. So it's the one thing about college baseball that's completely different from every other sport. And it's got its good things and it's got its bad things.
Yeah. And the risk is there is nothing that's signed. So if you decide that you have a dinner with another advisor and he pitches you that he can get you more money in the draft, even if he can't, if he's a good salesman, that's where you see guys that flip. So it is a it's a slippery slope in the business. And there's just a lot of decisions that players and their families have to make that might not necessarily be in their best interest. So it's always important to make the right choice when who you choose to trust.
Yep.
When you're talking about the story with the good cop, bad cop, Carl liked that. He liked that story. The only Tennessee said she's worried about defense this weekend. When you are talking about the weather, Mr. Jones said it's going to be raining Vol home runs. I hope so, but in that park, man, they're going to have to really get a hold of the ball.
Yeah. We're going to have to see a lot of hanging curveballs for that to happen.
Yeah.
Elijah, welcome, buddy. Good to have you. He said, Vol Bros, what's up? He said, everything about Kentucky sucks. That's confirmed now with the rain and everything and the weather. Let's see. Carl said Chase Burns had so much fire and energy, and he said that he understood why they made a change because it seemed as though his confidence was shaken there for a while because there was a little bit of time when he was struggling to find the zone. That's for sure. Carl said we had bad weather at Kentucky the last time we were there.
Kavaris Tears was quoted the other day. He said it was the coldest he's ever been in his entire life.
The only Tennessee said, do you think it's harder to keep baseball players from transferring since they do it so often through high school? Do you think, compared to other sports and especially Division I college athletics, is it harder to keep baseball players than maybe a basketball team or football?
I think you deal with the risk compared to basketball just because most basketball players are going in the portal trying to create some leverage for the pro. And I think that baseball players are doing the same thing once they hit the junior year. But prior to that, I think that right now, since NIL is so new, entering the portal, whenever you feel like you can already make more money, is something that players are doing. The way that the advisors work now, whether you like it, agree with it or not, the advisors are making deals behind the scenes. So whenever a big time player hits the portal, more than likely they know exactly what they're getting before they hit the portal,
Yep.
And it's you can't regulate it. It's something that NCAA can try, but they made that mistake by opening up in the wild, wild west without putting any sort of rules that they could track. So I think that until we get some sort of non-compete signed from the universities in some way, or trying to regulate it in some sort of fashion from an agency standpoint, people are going to continue to be transferring any chance they feel like they can get a better deal. So,
all right. So I got a question for you here. So somebody just asked if you've ever broken wind to get back at a umpire. That wasn't my question, but I saw it come through in the chat there.
I don't think so, but
okay.
I might have smelt something whenever Ben Joyce was on the mound.
Yeah. From the hitter and the umpire and you.
Yeah. It was someone. Yeah.
So back in, I think it may have been 2022, it may have been 2021. I put the photo on the thumbnail, and it's you with Paco the Rally Squirrel on your shoulder.
Man.
Okay, so I have a question. I can't imagine putting a squirrel voluntarily on my shoulder. Were you ever nervous or scared when you were standing there with that squirrel on your shoulder? Because in my opinion, that thing has claws that could rip my face apart, man.
But it was a baby. It was a baby. It hadn't even opened its eyes yet. The way that whole situation worked is more than likely it ended up being probably a distraction at the time compared to doing anything. But we weren't playing well. It was my sophomore year, and I'm walking into the facility, and I think we might have had squirrels that were able to get above our locker room at some point. But there was a baby squirrel right outside of the door that had fallen out of a hole into the roof. So everyone was like, man, what do we do? I should have just left it. The mom would have went and got it. Everything would have been fine. But me being from kind of a country background, not being afraid of wildlife. I thought it would have been a great time to grab it, get it in there, spark some life into the team. Hey, and we went on a hitting streak. I don't know if it was due to the squirrel or not, but that was just something that ended up being a fun little thing.
But
that is awesome.
Every college baseball team has a story about some live animal that at some point either lived in the dorm or lived in the locker room. Like it's just what you do. Like you just look for stuff like that.
It's a weird fetish.
Oh yeah. We stored a goat. We stored a goat for an entire weekend in the dorm shower. And this is back when we had communal showers. So there was a live goat in our dorm shower for an entire weekend one year because we stole it out of some farm and then couldn't figure out how to take it back. So, baseball players do stupid things. Like it's just what we do.
Yeah. And something in the brain has unwired in some way. A funny story off of the wildlife is one of my good friends.
That's a sentence I didn't expect to hear today.
Because again, every team has those stories. Like it's just there.
Yeah. So my junior year, we were far past the squirrel. We had moved on to snakes. I'm out. No one liked snakes. No one at all. But my teammate Alex Solari, he had a snake, and he comes to the locker room and he's just like, "Yeah, I don't know where it went." And we're just like, he had roommates. He had roommates at the time. He's like, "Yeah, I just haven't seen my snake in a week. It got out in his house." And like 2 months later, my friend Jackson Leith is going through his clothes and a snake is just in his closet and just freaks out, and that was a whole ordeal. But yeah, that baseball players and wildlife, it's a weird thing, but it is there.
Oh yeah.
I can't do snakes. Spiders, that's no big deal. Heights, no big deal. Snakes, nope, I'm out. That's my thing. I can't do snakes. So that was awesome because that's so cool. We got a Paco the Rally Squirrel origin story. That was amazing. Thank you very much.
So Paco, I was unfortunately not able to take the proper care of Paco, so I had to take him to the vet, dump him off. I think he was fine. Hopefully, I'm going to tell myself he ended up being fine and lived the rest of his days, maybe on the university up in a tree or something. But,
to this day, he sits in the trees behind the left field porch and watches the games, longingly remembering those days.
I know he's waiting on me to come back for him.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Paco, man, we had such an exciting Paco origin story, and then like this really sad orphan story.
Yeah. And the vet ended up telling me it was a girl, the whole time. And I was like, well, some dad I
am. Let's see. Brant asked a really good question. Oh, speaking of squirrels, Mr. Jones said we have a squirrel in the football team. Let's see. Let's see. So Brant asked a really good question. He said, what SEC team talked the most trash? Any of it appropriate for a PG podcast?
Ooh, that is a good question. Besides us?
I was about to say, other than the 2022 Tennessee team, who would be the team? I think y'all took the cake that year.
I would say we had the most beef with Florida. BT Rypel, he was a great player, but me and him, and it's crazy because me and him would always, after the games, we would have a lot of respect for each other. But in the time of playing, we were constantly jawing at each other. While I was at the plate, he was at the plate. I mean, there was just back and forth constantly. So I would say Florida, maybe a little Arkansas. Vanderbilt never talked was one of the things. I guess Tim Corbin had them locked and silent, but almost in military mode.
Okay, that brings up another question. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being it didn't bother me, 10, I could not stand that guy. The Vandy Whistler. What were your thoughts on him? Because I'm about a 17 on that scale, honestly.
I mean, you go to Vanderbilt game and they have like 1,500 people in the stands. it's almost like if they don't have him, they don't have anything. They don't have any like culture to them besides being an elite team for 15 years. But whenever it was 2019 and they were beating everyone like a drum and you was just having to hear whistling, yeah, it got old. But it wasn't too bad whenever we were handling some business in 2022. So
Mr. Jones is still a little torn up about that whole bat sticker incident last year.
I think that was the maddest I've ever been at Jordan Beck, because up until then, that was the rumor about how we were doing things to the bat. Our bats were illegal. We were everyone was on steroids. We were doing things that just it couldn't be possible. If you looked at our team, we were full of juniors through fifth-year seniors of guys that were men.
Yep.
Luke Lipsius was a man. Trey Lipscomb was a man. Jordan Beck is 6'3", 225 pounds. He doesn't need a bad or a fake bat or a loaded bat. He's doing things that he'll be a big leaguer here in about a year or so.
Yep.
We were just talented, but it was common knowledge that everyone thought that we were doing something sketchy. So whenever Jordan was not super technical with making sure everything was, I's were dotted, T's were crossed, shirts were buttoned, everything. I think that's what made me the most frustrated at that part. But we ended up sweeping them, so it wasn't too bad.
Caleb Lawn Care, welcome, Caleb Lawn Care. Hi. Everybody can go check out his lawn care channel, I guess. That'd be pretty cool. Oreo Puppy Dog said they just adopted a baby possum. How about that? That's what I'm talking about. The Vol Bros has turned into an animal advocacy program tonight. That's what I'm talking about.
He must have been a baseball player.
Yep. There's definitely a history there.
Carl said, was the daddy hat ever washed? Were there more than one during the season? Because 22 season was like 158 home runs.
I mean, sweat, dirt, muck, doesn't matter. No, that thing is original to this day. And if I found out that they did wash it, I'd probably have some words for the guys, because I mean, you just gotta keep it. You gotta keep it genuine.
Man, Mr. Jones, he's serious. He's like, I got screenshots of the ump peeling the sticker off the bat. Like, he is serious. I love it. That's great. Hitting dingers. That's Mina Likey. She said, what's your take on the Mississippi State game where 11 players were ejected? What was up with the catcher? Did you happen to see that a couple weekends ago?
I did. Yeah. And I do know that there's probably some jawing that went on before the game or before that play had happened. If you're dealing with college guys that they spend every single day with each other, they build a dynamic that you can't replace. So as soon as there's some hostility going on, I can definitely see how some teams would start to stand up for the guys. I mean, the catcher, let's be honest, it was a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was very warranted on what the other team was doing. 11 people being ejected, I think it's a little too much. I think there should have just been one guy tossed that was instigating it, but
Yep.
It's just the world we live in now.
She said, so only 10 you see said, so what's up with Birmingham making the decisions on people getting ejected out of the game? Because
we talked about that when it happened, and it's easily one of the dumbest things the SEC does for the reason of what Evan just said. The umpire standing right there can hear everything people are saying. And I mean, I've been in baseball fights. Evan, I'm sure you've been in baseball fights. The guy you need to worry about is not the one throwing the first punch. It's the one running his mouth to the side, instigating the next 5 punches.
Yeah.
And the umpires are standing there listening to that. And then this whole ordeal happens at Mississippi State, and they go to Birmingham and let the central office decide who's ejected, watching it on television. They can't hear anything. They have no idea who the instigators were. They're just randomly picking and choosing people. And, my favorite one was the guy from Mississippi State that got ejected because he touched a Georgia player, and they found out after the fact it was his best friend, and he put his arm around him. And it's like, but, SEC throws him out because the Birmingham office said, well, he touched the other team.
He violently hugged him.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it was bad judgment. Throw one or two guys out that were starting it, and the umpire, they know. So all it would have taken was the umpire coming out, having a voice, standing on it, saying this guy's gone, and get back to playing. But yeah, you're exactly right.
Warn both dugouts. If anybody says another word, you're going with him. It's easy.
Yep. Yeah.
So Mr. Jones has become my favorite comments of the whole night because he's still talking about the bat sticker deal. And he said, I thought it was weird how the umpires huddled up shoulder to shoulder. That was why. That's when they were removing the sticker. They were blocking the bat from the cameras.
If I'm on the jury, I might believe you.
Absolutely.
I'd probably say he was innocent. Yeah, I'm down.
Absolutely. Well, I have one more question because you got to experience. And Dinger said, why? Because why the SEC is stupid. So that harkens back to about a month ago on our show. I said the SEC was stupid for their, multiple things actually. But one of the things
weekly occurrence.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was stupid. Hey, so here's another question. How dumb is it the way the SEC baseball tournament is organized, how it's double elimination all the way up until the semifinals, and then it's single elimination? So thank you. So he has the same opinion as I do. This is why the SEC is stupid. A team could literally go through the entire winner's bracket, get to the semifinals, and lose to a team that's already lost a game, and they get knocked out because now it's single elimination, whereas the other team, they had to lose twice, but the team that lost in the semifinals lost once and they're out. I mean, it makes no sense. Am I right? Or is this a normal thing that people think is okay?
No, you're right. I have an issue with how it's structured. I just don't understand why we don't, as a conference, try to align the tournament like it is the regional to the super regional. Go ahead and keep these guys in the mentality of playing a tournament style to where it just keeps them in that dynamic. So facing a team 2 out of 3 is something that is it's a skill that is developed, especially as a coaching staff and as teams, being able to understand who you're playing and be able to throw 3 punches and land 2 out of 3. So that's the issue that I have with it. If I was the commissioner of the SEC, that's the first thing I would do would be able to make sure that it is almost identical with how the regional and super regional, in order for my SEC teams to continue that movement and to win those games. So.
And they could even invite every SEC school, make it a single elimination tournament that moves to a championship, and let the championship be best 2 out of 3, and get the best of all worlds. But instead, we do this crazy thing where we leave people out, then we go from a double to a single, and it's just bizarre.
It is, and I think that at one point, whenever wins in the SEC mattered to the committee, I think that was a big deal, wins in the tournament. But I don't no longer think that. I think since Ole Miss got in that year that they won the national championship, I think there were teams that had proven in the SEC tournament that they belonged more. But they had already made the decision that Ole Miss was in. And I mean, clearly they deserve to be in the national championships. But now that the tournament doesn't matter as much, I think we need to restructure it.
Yeah.
The only Tennessee said, got to go. Great show, guys. Enjoyed you, Evan. Come back anytime. I echo that sentiment. You're welcome back here anytime.
Thank you.
Carl's gave $20 to a vasectomy fund, and he said just because. So that harkens back to our bracketology episode right before the March Madness tournament, which I won, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there. I won our Vol Bros bracket challenge. It wasn't just me and Rustin. There were a bunch of other people in it too. So
it's real convenient that the person who was organizing it and tracking everything was the one that won.
Yeah, it is a little shady, I admit. But when you got it, you got it. So, one thing that Rustin mentioned was there are more vasectomies during that week leading into the first weekend of the tournament than any other time of the year. And that just became essentially the topic of our whole show almost that night. And then,
because if you get it that Monday through Wednesday, you can call in sick on Thursday and Friday to recover from your surgery. So, proven fact.
Hey, no one's going to be checking to see if you actually got it or not.
No.
So, I mean, that might be a strategy.
So here's my last question for you, Evan, because you got to do something that, growing up, like in the well, really is a lot in the 90s, seeing Rosenblatt Stadium, seeing, I remember what's his face, Warren, the left-handed hitter for Warren Morris. There we go. For LSU hitting the walk-off home run to win the College World Series, and Rosenblatt. I remember all those things. I remember Skip Bertman. And then it was the end of an era when it moved from across the street, really, from Rosenblatt, and then the new stadium just like across the street from Rosenblatt, where it was. Isn't that the way it is?
I'm not sure.
So I think it's like behind the left. It's one of either left field or right field wall. Across the street, there's still like a little memorial to Rosenblatt.
Yeah, they dozed it, but it was about a block away.
You're talking about Omaha, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I knew that they did the renovations, but I'm not for certain on the location of it.
So you got to step on the field that every kid who grows up playing baseball, every kid dreams of, playing in the College World Series, going to Omaha. I mean, my goodness, when we were kids, TPX made a baseball bat and the name of it was Omaha. I mean, and everybody was like, oh yeah, I'm going to use that bat and then I'm going to make it the College World Series. So, Evan, the first time you got to step foot in 2021, the first time you got to step foot on that field in Omaha, what was that moment like? What did that feel like when you got to walk on that field?
It was surreal. I remember after my sophomore year, we had just gotten beat out of a regional, and there was a senior there that was one of my best friends. It was after we had got beat, and we were all talking, and my coach was letting him talk to the team, and he said, "I'm gonna be honest, I never thought that I would have made a regional while I was here." So that is where the program came from 2017 to 2021. I don't think people don't realize what it was like before everyone started really watching and being behind the University of Tennessee. And quite frankly, we didn't give them reason to. We weren't very good. We weren't putting a product on the field that was worth coming and watching. And there'd be times on Friday nights where we'd have 500, 600 people in the stands. I can't even imagine that. And this was conference games, so I can't even imagine that happening now. So, 1 second, my computer's about to die. Make sure that we don't end a little early. So sorry about that.
No, you're good. We appreciate it, man.
But yeah, it was a surreal moment because in a short time, my freshman year to my senior year, not only had we changed the culture completely and we had now become a presence in college baseball, but we had done it in a time frame where my freshman year, we didn't even make the SEC tournament. So we were that team that just quite frankly wasn't even good enough to get invited to the party, So being able to make that switch so quickly, not only was it having the right leadership and the right coaches in the program, but it was a lot of hard work and basically doing it with the same people that were in there whenever it wasn't going well. So I think that there's beauty in that of knowing that there was the work that we were putting in. It ended up having something behind it and having something to show for it. So, I know we didn't perform well in Omaha. I think that in order to establish a premier program and to win multiple national championships, I think there are steps that programs have to take. And I think that we've put that team in the position to continue and eventually maybe win some national championships. But just getting there was something that was at the time good enough for the program, just because of how far we had come. And now it's up to the guys to continue that culture. Now they've raised the standard of the expectations. Being in Omaha is no longer such an accomplishment, which is crazy to think about. But now
That's exactly right.
It's about winning it. And I think that changing that dynamic just a little bit just allows a program to go to the next level.
And so to your point, you go from 2017, where you're not in the top 8 teams to get invited to the SEC tournament, to 7 years later, you're saying it's not enough to get to Omaha. You got to win it. I mean, the expectations and the standard that's been set, it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible what you all have done as a team and what, Tony and the coaching staff has done as coaches to turn the whole program around. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it was a common verbiage in the locker rooms, especially in the off season, of saying, we got to do this to make it to Omaha. We got to do this to make it to Omaha. Like, Omaha is the goal. And we got to Omaha. And I think that us being there, it was a little overwhelming, just knowing what we had accomplished. And I wouldn't say satisfied, but didn't know if we necessarily belonged at that moment. But now the dynamic is, how can we win a national championship? Because we are at that moment.
That's a great point.
So I do think that the more that can be established in the younger guys as they're coming from freshmen to juniors and even seniors, now it's all about how can we win that national championship. And once they do, and they will at some point, how can we win another one? So
absolutely. Hitting dingers, that's me no like. She made a fantastic suggestion when you were talking about what you would do if you were SEC commissioner. She said, we need to make a feature question for all guest appearances from here on out. What would you do if you were the SEC commissioner?
That's great.
That would be fantastic. I think that is maybe the best suggestion we've ever gotten in any comment on any show we've ever had. That is amazing. Thank you very much. Big Orange Vol, welcome, Big Orange Vol. He said, Vols by 50, baby. Cats got no chance this weekend. So the number 3 team in the country playing at home, I mean, I can't say that they don't have a chance, but I hope that Tennessee sweeps them. But I just hope we win the series personally.
Yeah, I'd be happy with 2 out of 3.
He said, we're winning national title this year in Omaha. It's happening. Let's see. Hitting Dinger said, how many 10-year-olds emulated the villains? I love that this team influenced kids to want to work hard and be great. That's cool. Carl said, going on my 4th season watching TV, have not missed a game in 4 seasons. He said, one day I'm going to be there live. Absolutely. I love it. Let's see. Big Orange Vault said, you should get a ring when we win the Natty this year, bro. You're a real OG. I like it. Let's see. Carl said, could not be more thrilled with Vol baseball. To win a Natty, you have to have some luck too. That's 100% accurate. He said 22 Notre Dame playing out of their minds, and Vols had an off weekend. I think that's fair. And it was cool hearing Evan's, perspective on that earlier in the show as well. Let's see. Mr. Jones said this weekend, Tennessee's going to have 3 run rule shutouts this weekend. No orange colored glasses at all. It's going to happen. Hitting Dinger said UT needs their own sports channel. Absolutely. And Hitting Dinger's made another good point. She said, yes, you all changed Vol baseball's trajectory, but even more than that, you influenced so many kids that we're going to see them in the future now wanting to wear that orange tee on their chest. Absolutely. Well, Evan, if you don't mind, could you tell everybody one more time before we sign off here what loyalty is? And you spell it loyal T, like for Tennessee, right?
T. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
keeps the Y off. Something that actually, so whenever Vitello was kind of going through rumors of him leaving for LSU or Texas, which, we'll be honest, I thought that it was going to happen. He gave the team shirts that said loyalty on it, so he couldn't come out and tell us that he was staying due to just security and didn't want it to become a thing. But he wanted to hint at us like, hey, I'm not going anywhere. This is where I want to be. So as soon as we got those shirts, it was like, all right, that's our guy,
That's awesome.
That's where that comes from. But loyalty it's a collective to where we can take NIL or take some donations and give them to the players through NIL. So with college baseball, 11.7 scholarships with 35 guys on roster, it does make it quite challenging to the families, not just the kids, being able to set them up for success after school. To most students, you're able to try to work and provide some income to be able to bridge that gap. With baseball, the give and take to baseball is a phenomenal opportunity, but it takes a lot of time and discipline. And this is a way to kind of help them get started, even if the draft doesn't go their way. So you can always reach out to me. I'm on all social medias. I'd love to explain more about it, and appreciate everything that everyone's done tonight just for the collective in the comments. So thanks.
And just so everybody knows, like Rustin said earlier, all super chats from this episode of the Vol Bros are going to go straight to loyalty and to support the baseball team specifically, the players on that team. Just so everybody knows as well, if you're catching this on a replay, so let's say you're watching it tomorrow or 4 days from now, you can still give a super chat. It's just called a super thanks then. And so you'll see a button that shows up beneath the video. Instead of saying super chat, it'll say super thanks. And so any of those, for perpetuity, this episode, anything that's given to this episode will go to loyalty. And Evan, I'm going to go ahead and ask you now, and I hope this is okay, but I'm assuming Tennessee is going to make it certainly to the regionals and hopefully at least a super regional this year, if not Omaha. That's the goal, is Omaha, like you said, to win it all. So assuming we win the regional and we're going to be in a super regional, I would love to have you back on the show to preview that super regional when we find out who the opponent will be. And we'll do the same thing. We'll have, we'll promote it and let everybody know, all donations are going to go to loyalty. And, with the excitement around the program entering a super regional, maybe we can generate some more stuff for the guys and to all of you who gave super chats tonight. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much. That is absolutely fantastic. And we assure you that, we will get that to the loyalty program. But Evan, I got one last surprise for you. I don't think Rustin told you about this.
I don't typically tell people this.
It's because it's awesome, really. And it's such a good surprise that listen, Evan, I know that you're the only person in the history of Tennessee baseball to have multiple 3 home run games. That's a cool stat. I know it. I mean, that's great. You got to play in Omaha. That's pretty awesome. But Evan, I want you to know tonight you have hit the pinnacle, man, because you are now an honorary bro. And so we give this is the cream of the crop right here, man. Like, we give every person who joins our show as a guest a free honorary bro t-shirt. So when we sign off, you just hang on a second. We'll get your shirt size and I'll get it ordered for you. And maybe Rustin can drop it off to you one night at Nuga Sports Academy. Because if you're in the Chattanooga area, Nuga Sports Academy, nugasportsacademy.com, you can get baseball instruction from Evan Russell at their facility. So, Evan, congratulations. You are now an honorary bro. We know this is a highlight moment for your life. We know. We know.
Is there a way that we can get express shipping to go ahead and get that quicker? You know, I'm kind of upset that I didn't already have it, so I could have wore it on the show.
Hey, I appreciate that. Well, you can definitely, if you're willing to join us before the Super Regional, you know, it's yours, man. You'll have it for you.
I'll support. I will support. Absolutely.
We appreciate that very, very much. You have been very gracious with your time tonight, Evan. We appreciate that. We hope you have a safe trip down there in Athens. Avoid people barking at you. Hitting Dinger said, I want one of those shirts. Hey, you can absolutely have one. TheVolbros.com, and you click on shop, and they are right there. We have actually Hitting Dingers for you. We have honorary sis shirts too. So we have bro and sis shirts. So, I mean, that'd be an awesome, awesome gift for anybody. Awesome gift. So Evan, watch out for people barking at you.
Okay.
Carl said if you come back, he'll get another neighbor's card for that show.
That'll work. That'll work. Thank you, Carl.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. It has been a lot of fun. Huge series this weekend at Kentucky. Tennessee football did have a commitment today from
Sydney Walton.
I could think of the first name there for a second. Sydney Walton, the overall number 423 player in the country. So that is pretty good. He's a defensive back from Alabama, Moody, Alabama. So we'll be talking about that probably Sunday night next time we're live as well. Hitting Dinger said that shirt should be your top seller. I agree 100%. Absolutely. Hey, absolutely. Carl said, get you a coffee cup on the website and the shirt Rustin's wearing, the Everything School shirt with the TriStar on that. You like that, Evan? I made that shirt.
I love it.
I'm pretty pumped about that one. That's one of my favorites. So you can get a coffee mug on that site too, man. It's just the place to be. I'm telling you. So we hope everybody have a great evening, and we will see all of you very, very soon. Evan, thank you again. And hang on just a second after we sign off. But we appreciate you, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.